Hi, my darlings, I'm Sophie Darling, and welcome back to the channel. If you love anime, heartfelt reactions, and deep dives into symbolism and themes, then you're in the right place. Before we jump into today's reaction, don't forget to hit that like button to show some love, subscribe if you haven't already, and please do ring that notification bell so you never miss a moment of fun. If you want even more exclusive content like early access to my reactions, full-length anime watch-alongs, and an amazing community of fellow anime lovers, check out my Patreon. You can find it in the description box below. Your support truly means the world as it helps to keep these reactions coming, and I'd love to have you join our cozy little anime family. If you notice I look a little different to my react, it's because I'm refilming the intro and outro. Unfortunately, we have had some technical issues. My noise gate has cut me off in places. I have replaced the missing words with subtitles. It's far from ideal, but I have since fixed the issue. I unfortunately did not pick this up until editing. I'm still not 100% sure what has caused the problem, but I have tried to fix it the best that I can. So I ask you to please be patient and to bear with it. I only had two options, which was either I don't post the reacts at all, which I feel would be a complete shame because even though the audio is a bit scuffed, it is still a good react, or to replace parts of the missing audio with subtitles on screen. So I have made do with a really bad situation. I know it's far from ideal, and thankfully we have fixed the problem now for future recordings, but just for these next few recordings, please bear with me, please be patient. Again, I sincerely apologize and enjoy the react. Today, we are reacting to episode 11 of series 3 of Attack on Titan. The last couple of episodes have been a bit of an information dump, and I won't lie, I kind of struggle to piece things together. So I have kind of gone full mad woman conspiracy theorist, and I have made an Attack on Titan timeline. What I've noticed that Asayama does is that he'll drop such interesting information on you that your mind then just goes, okay, I'm going to forget about the 20 other things that have already been brought up. It's almost like he wants you to fixate on bigger information drops rather than smaller ones, because the smaller ones actually would reveal more about the story than what he's willing to tell us so far. But it almost feels intentional in that he wants you to focus on these bigger pieces of information rather than the smaller pieces of information, because we kind of throw them away as maybe not as significant yet, but they are actually incredibly significant. It's his way of building mystery and suspense. I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I'm very smart and I remember a lot, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have the memory of a goldfish, and that's okay, which is why I've done a timeline. I have sat down, I have done a timeline. I will show you guys this timeline, but I'm going to show you it after episode 12. Patreon has already seen this timeline, so if you would like to see the timeline in advance, you can find it on Patreon, but I have since added to it and Patreon hasn't seen that yet, so hello. And this timeline has really helped me to begin to kind of theorize and piece things together, and also remember information that I had just completely forgotten. I had a bit of an epiphany. And I know people are going to be sat there going, hold up a second, how did you forget that? And again, it's so easy to forget stuff when Asayama is throwing so much at you in a very short space of time. This has only been 10 episodes of season 3 so far, and there's been a lot of information dropped, and not all of it makes sense. And you're so intent on trying to make that information make sense that you forget about the information given to you in series 1 and series 2. I completely have been looking at this wrong. I've fallen into the trap of seeing Titans as completely separate from humanity, which is silly because we know that humans are Titans. So my biggest question at the minute is every human capable of becoming a pure Titan, or is it only specific people? Because it would be very interesting to find out if it's maybe a certain race of people are able to turn into Titans, or if it's something that everyone in this world can do, right? And I think what's tripped me up as well is that Reiner kept referring to their attack on humanity as if he didn't see himself as human. But I think that is to throw people off, because if you remember back in series 1, everyone within the walls thinks that they are the only humans left. They don't know that there's more humans. And I think Reiner also knows that they don't know that, which is why Reiner is saying it's an attack on humanity, almost as if he's removed from humanity, but he's not. He is human. Everyone that can shift is also human, but their bloodlines make them more susceptible, or their race makes them more susceptible. And I've just completely forgot that. I think I started to overcomplicate it by seeing Titans as completely separate and removed from humanity, whereas like that's not the case. All of them are humanity. Everybody that we see forms humanity, but there are class systems, there are tier systems, there are different races, and there are different bloodlines. And that's why I think there was an ethno-nationalist conflict at some point, because it's very much giving the vibe of the first king believing himself superior, believing himself above others because of the blood that flows through him, because it's linked to the founding titan. And I will get into this more, I think, when I show you my timeline. But fundamentally, my point of thinking right now is everyone is human, but the bloodlines is what distinguishes certain people above others. And that bloodline grants them special abilities or allows them to withstand so like the noble bloodlines were able to withstand the founding titans memory wipe. The bloodlines may be different, but everyone is human. Okay, so that's where I'm at, and that when it's a war on humanity, it's not actually a war on humanity, it's a war on that aspect of humanity. He just means it's a war on them, on their race of people, on the people within the walls, on the humans within the walls, by his town, which are also humans, because they don't know that they exist. And possibly the reason he's saying attack on humanity is to align himself more with the Titans so that people don't know about his town and don't know that they're planning to attack the walls. It's almost like a covert operation in a sense. Okay, so as of episode 11, this is what I think. There was at some stage a war, okay? The walls were then built, and that race of humans that were ruled by the first king are those that we see within the walls. Then there is the second race, which is, for shortening reasons, I'm going to call them the warriors. And the reason I'm going to call them the warriors is because that keeps coming up in reference to Reiner, Bertold, and Annie. And it's just easier to simplify it than saying Annie, Reiner, and Bertold's people, which I have been doing for like episodes now. And it's just simpler to say the warriors. So you have two races of people. You have the warriors, and then you have those linked to the first king. The first king and the leader of the warriors are at war. They're at conflict. The walls are built. The race of people ruled by the first king come within the walls. He wipes their memory. He stops the Titan power from being used. I'm not quite sure why as of yet. I have some theories. Again, it's on the timeline. I'll explain that at the end of episode 12. But he keeps his people safe from whatever atrocities have been happening elsewhere. This is his way of ending the war with the warriors. But the warriors don't have their memories wiped, so they remember everything. They remember the war, they remember possibly the atrocities committed, and they pass that history down generations. And this is what we're seeing, is the aftermath of that. We're seeing transgenerational trauma. We're seeing them not able to let go of their hatred due to what has been inflicted upon them. And therefore, they then start attacking the walls, even though the people within aren't aware of what's going on. So this is a covert operation. Annie, Reiner, and Bertold were sent there to find the founding titan, is my firm belief. The reason for this being is that the founding titan is passed through the blood of the king. So the reason they all wanted to be in the military place was to be in the interior to steal this power and steal this ability for their people to be able to win the upcoming war that is about to be waged. What changes that is Eren. The direction gets subverted because Reiner and Bertold then join the Survey Corps because Eren has the founding Titan abilities. And the reason for my thinking of this is that We know they were looking for something. They discovered that Eren has that ability towards the end of series 2, and then he was throwing Titans at Eren to try and steal that ability by having one of the pure Titans consume it, and then he would have killed presumably that newly shifting Titan to steal that power for himself and for his people. So it was a covert operation to target the royal family, but they didn't know at the time of joining that the race family would sort of 5 steps ahead. They have put in a dummy king and they have hidden as lesser nobles, but they are still pulling strings from this position because they're doing it to protect themselves and protect their family. But the founding titan is missing because Eren's father, Grisha, stole it and Eren now has it. So, long story short, everyone is human. There was a war that happened, there is a war that's coming. And all of this is based around the founding titan and using the founding titan's abilities to win whatever war is about to be waged. And because Eren is on the side of the walls and the people within the walls, he is a threat because he will use that ability against Reiner, Annie, Bertold, and their people, the warriors. So that's why they need to steal it from him because it is immeasurable power that they want to have control over in order to enact revenge against the walls and the bloodline of the first king, because that history again from like 100 years, well, not 100 years because it was 100 years since the walls were built, so god knows how long this war was being waged for, probably centuries, but it happened way back. That's my thought process so far. There was a war, the walls were built to protect the rest of humanity. It wiped people's memories to stop them from going outside and to keep them ignorant to the war and what had truly happened so that they could live in relative peace. But it's not really peace if you're ignorant, and it's also not peace if you force people to stay within the walls because you're scared of people learning the truth and possibly disagreeing with the walls in the first place, believing that they should be opened up, or possibly disagreeing with the side of history that they find themselves on. And it could also be ethno-nationalist in terms of you don't want the bloodlines to mix, so you keep them separate. I am not fully sure of how it all works, but all I know is that the walls are not paradise because you've taken away people's free will, you've taken away their ability to learn and to know the truth. You cannot build paradise if you're going to bury the true contentions that are happening. It's almost like burying your head in the sand, wanting to forget that these problems exist. Paradise cannot exist because they are hiding from the fact that there is a war coming. They're hiding from the fact that there are people out there that exist. They are isolating them from the world. But by extension, they're keeping them ignorant. They're keeping them docile whilst hiding the fact that there is a significant conflict and that their race of people were involved in this conflict, and that's why they're hated. So when Uri talks about building paradise, you almost have to question if paradise can truly exist if you are manufacturing an idyllic society, which is not the truth. It is a facade. Can paradise exist in a world where you are keeping the civilians within the walls ignorant to their own history and their own connection to people outside the walls? But not only that, you're keeping people ignorant of the past, and therefore they are going to suffer the consequences of something that they don't remember. Because if there was a war and they're wiping people's memories to forget the war and the atrocity, can you truly call it paradise when they are about to reap the repercussions for the actions of their ancestors and not for their own personal actions? They don't understand. They're a younger generation. They're not the same generation that would have been around before the walls were built. And you also have to look at the fact that paradise cannot be paradise if there's hidden problems, if there's negative aspects that disrupt the perception of happiness and contentment, which there is. People are trying to learn the truth. They want to know. They want to see what's beyond the walls. They want to have free will. They're led to believe that they have free will, and yet are subsequently punished and murdered and killed for their ambition, for their desire of knowledge, for their free will. And I would argue that you cannot build paradise on a false idea, on a false ideology. You are building paradise on a history that doesn't exist, on something that is not real, because you've hidden the actual truth and rewritten history. You cannot have effective paradise and peace if there's another group of people that know the truth and are hell bent on seeking vengeance for the past, for the history that they know and they remember. You are keeping people ignorant to prevent civil infighting, civil conflict, and possibly from them demanding that people be allowed in, or seeking out people and learning the full truth of their own history. But by extension, you are creating a paradise in which people are about to be punished for something that they A, don't remember, or B, were not old enough to be involved in. You are burying your head in the sand in the hopes that the problem will go away. And that's not paradise. That's hell. That's a nightmare. There is possibly a war coming soon, because Yuri makes a comment of in humanity's fading twilight. We know that they can see the memories of the past. I'm wondering if they also have the ability to predict the future or know what's going to happen in the future. And therefore, Yuri is aware that something is coming that is bigger than humanity's ever faced before. And that's why he refers to it as humanity's fading twilight. Maybe he means it as humanity as a whole, because this is a conflict to end all conflicts, and humanity will be pushed to the brink in this war between each other, that there will be very few survivors and that humanity will not recover from such a war. Maybe that's why they tried to build paradises, because they knew that there was no winning in this war to begin with, and that the only way that they could prevent humanity being lost altogether was to build the maybe that's it. That's why they built the walls, was because the war was so brutal and violent and bloody that no side was going to win. Neither side were going to win. Humanity was pushed to the very brink, and they decided to enclose their people within the walls to give them a chance of survival and to recuperate. Also, the warriors were then given the chance to recuperate because the walls were built and the war came to an end. Okay, I think that's what it refers to by building paradise, is building the potentiality for people to recuperate, because humanity was pushed so far to the point that they thought that they may never recover from it. But again, paradise is not paradise if you're hiding the underlying issues within society. And paradise isn't really paradise within the walls, because you have class systems that discriminate against people based on wealth. And you have the walls themselves, which are tiers. The closer you are to the interior, the more secure you are. And the further you are to the outside, the more at risk you are. So it's not paradise if no one is on an equal playing field, if everyone is fighting to survive, fighting to even feed themselves, fighting to live another day, and then you have people that hoard wealth. Is that paradise? No, that's not paradise. That's capitalism. I would argue that there are benefits to capitalism. Of course, there is. There are huge benefits to capitalism, but I would never argue that a strictly capitalistic society is paradise. Capitalism always works well in conjunction with socialism. I know there's going to be people that disagree with me there, but I think a purely capitalistic society is not a positive one, purely because when capitalism is the central focus of a society, you have those that do not have the financial means to accumulate wealth, to accumulate power, who are permanently mistreated. They don't have access to healthcare. They don't have access to what they need to survive, the basics of what they need to survive. And that's when you start to see the rich get richer and the poorer get poorer. And there's a massive wealth divide. I'm not ever for a strictly capitalistic society, because I believe that that's when you start to see people truly disregarding those in need. And unfortunately, I think that's the way the world is going these days in every society. I think most societies these say is we're heading down a route where that money is king and you start to devalue what people have to offer and you start to look down on them because they're not as wealthy as you are or that they don't have as much money as you, and that human connection becomes lost and the sense of community becomes lost because money is very individualistic. I think when money becomes the sole focus and sole orientation of how your society functions, you begin to lose that human connection to people, begin to devalue people. You don't see them as humans, you see them as a way to make money. But yeah, we've ended up on a tangent. Not quite sure why. Driving that back to my main point, the walls are not paradise because again you have that kind of capitalistic function in which the poorer stay poor, those beneath the surface don't have access to medicine that's affordable, they don't have access to sunlight, they're told for even coming up above ground. It's not paradise. But without further ado, before I go on any more rants, we're going to get into episode 11 because that was kind of intense. I am sorry. Can't say that we don't have deep conversations on this channel, man.
思ってた女王と違うな。
今じゃ孤児院の院長の方が板についてきてる。
Leave her be.
巷でなんて言われてるか知ってる？牛飼いの女神様だって。
She's at home and down to earth with the people. They can relate to her.
タラス毒を塞いだやつのことなんか誰も覚えてねえ。
ヒストリアが女王になるって決意した理由の一つはこれをやるためだ。
She wants to bring good to the people.
地下街から壁の端まで孤児や困窮者を集めて面倒を見る。
Oh my god, it ties in with the introduction.
出身の兵長の後押しもあったらしい。困っている人がいたらどこにいたって見つけたし。
She's dismantling the classist system.
ヒストリアのやりたいこと。
Oh, my socialist queen.
またサボってる。日が暮れちゃうでしょ。
俺の母ちゃんに似てきた。
女神様。
ライナーとベルトルトともう一度会うことになるとしたら。
That's a very good question. I think it'd be really hard for him to kill them, though. Cycle of violence. Violence begets violence. We're beginning to see that replicate amongst the children of both races of people.
私たちのしたこと後悔するわけにはいかないから、最近は地下街にいた子たちも笑うようになったの。
I would too. I'd come from the underground to above ground. Striking difference.
そんなこと。
あの時は人類なんか滅べばいいとか言ってたのに。
She didn't mean it.
あれは勢い余っただけだから。
It was a joke. Oh. Carla's getting jealous.
エレンは実験で疲れてる。そうだね。ごめんミカサ。
だから俺を年寄りみたいに扱うのはやめろ。
Historia, you're queen. You don't have to apologize to anyone.
そしてエレンの硬質化の能力はとある対巨人兵器を誕生させた。
A war's coming.
今だ。
お
おお、うなじに当たったぞ。今度こそは。やったぞ、12メートル急激！これなら兵士が戦わなくても巨人を
They're strengthening the walls.
日中フル稼働で巨人伐採しまくりの地獄の証言人の誕生だ。
All right, Hanji, chill. Eren.
おそらく巨人の力を酷使しすぎたんだろう。この
A question I've had recently has been, we see Eren bleeding a lot when he uses the Titan abilities and he overuses them. We also saw Uri's body begin to decline and weaken, and he also looked considerably older than Roy when he passed on that power. I'm wondering if the Titan abilities have an impact on the body to such an extent that it ages them faster than what they actually are. That their bodies don't age the natural way. It pushes their bodies to such a brink that they die sooner than somebody else would, which is why Uri passes the power on, because he's not going to live as long as someone without the Titan ability, because it ages the body faster. So Eren having these almost internal injuries, it does make me wonder if we're going to see a decline in him at some point in terms of his health, like a rapid decline.
俺が疲れたくらいなんだって言うんですか。早く武器を揃えていきましょう。
You're overdoing
志願
it.
しなくに。
Oh my god, are we gonna get the...
何が嬉しくて今さら調査兵なんかになったんだか。
そうですよ。ヒッチに止められたりしなかったんですか？
Yeah, it sounds like Hitch.
なぜだ。
なぜって二人をもう
Oh, no.
よくわからないが、ヒッチには向いてないだとか、生きがるなだとか散々なじられたよ。挙句にこのまま憲兵にいればうまい汁が吸えるとか見損なったって言ってやったよ。
くそげ。
マルロはバカなの？
こいつはおかっぱ野郎ですね。
なんだよ、マルロは間違ってないだろ。
はしゃいでんのはお前と同じ実戦経験ゼロの編入の連中だけなんだよ。
おいおい、お前らすっかり歴戦の猛者か？
I mean,
お前らと比べられちまえばな。
ひでえな、同じ104期だろ。
yeah, but he has more experience
でも、
killing Titans than you do.
確かにお前ら変わ
So
ったよ。
just because you train
つながない
together
っていうか、
doesn't mean he's not a veteran in
一体
comparison.
何があったんだ？
聞きたいか。
いや、
Oh,
また今度にするよ。
dear. Everyone's suddenly really intense. Like they've seen and done stuff that no other cadet has had to do.
明日は調整日だから朝から俺の村に帰ろうと思って。また何かわかるかもしれないしな。
Oh, he's heading to his village. I'm not sure where Reiner was fighting the Beast Titan, but what if it's nearby and Connie runs into them? Oh, fuck.
決してないわけじゃないんですよね。
Just has to run with the
これから
ability.
巨人の解明が進んでいけば、いつかは。
巨人の正体は人間。
This is what I forgot, which was really silly of
60
me.
年ぐら
But
い
that's why it's changed my perspective.
ずっと
That
終わらない悪夢を見ているようだったよ。
everyone is human, therefore humanity is humans in general, regardless, but there's different races
俺たちが戦ってる
and
敵は
different
何なんだろう。
bloodlines.
つまり巨人ってのは
You're fighting other
悪
humans.
夢にうなされ続ける人間ってことなのか。俺も言っときゃそんな巨人に。
エレン、まだパンとスープが残ってるでしょ。おしゃべりは食べ終わってからにしなさい。
Jeez.
ごめんなミカサ。
She just wants him to be healthy.
エレン、お前最近そればっかだぞ。一人でブツブツと。お前が思い出さなきゃいけねえのはあの男だろ。洞窟で記憶を掘り返された時、親父さんと会っていた調査兵団の男ってやつを。
ああ、あの日あの状況で父さんと会っ
We know that after the fall of War Maria, that's when Grisha seeks out Reese. And we know that he stole that ability to take vengeance for the death of his wife. And he gives it to Eren. I'm not quite sure why he decided to give it to Eren and not use it himself. It doesn't quite make sense yet, but I'm sure, again, that will be explained in time. Maybe he didn't feel that he was capable of fulfilling what was needed by humanity, and that his son, because he was younger and was hell-bent on joining the Survey Corps, would maybe have more control over these powers than he would. But when we saw Grisha in Series 1 and he was riding back, that must have been when he confronted Reese. With War Maria falling, Grisha going back, and then it was that night that Grisha confronted Reese and stole the power from Frida. And then we have to presume that then the next day, Grisha gave that ability to Eren. And the reason I think he's given the ability to Eren is because Eren is not bound by the blood of the first king, and therefore Eren will use the abilities that everyone in the bloodline has not been able to use, because there's something in the bloodline that is blocking them from that ability. But Eren is not of that bloodline, meaning those powers are free for him to use. What if the guy we're seeing was someone that helped Grisha with his research, that helped Grisha figure out the truth of what's been going on, that there was a war, why the walls were built, the purpose for the walls being built, that the Reese family were refusing to use abilities, and by extension, he then knew that in order to protect the walls and the people within the walls and the people that he loved and cared for, he had to take those abilities because he knew war was coming. He knew something was coming, something big. Because he keeps saying, if you want to protect Makazo, if you want to protect Armin, you need to learn how to hone these abilities. Something is coming. He knows something is coming. And I think he has learned the true history of what happened prior to the walls being built. He's learned that they're not the only humans, and that's what's in the basement. What's in the basement is all the information he's accumulated over time, and that person that we're seeing helped him accumulate that knowledge. But am I going slightly insane? But he kind of looks like the person that trained them, and he said, Grisha, you would be proud. I might be left field here, but that looks like who trained Eren and the others at the beginning of series 1. Keith? Going back on my old video now. That looks like Keith, but it also looks like Erwin's commander before Erwin took over. So was Keith the commander before Erwin, and then was demoted or left and went to train the recruit? Because if this is Keith, it makes sense why in series 1 he says, Grisha, your son is now a soldier. Because Keith knew Grisha, but we didn't know how they knew Grisha. So if that is Keith, then it makes sense that he was working with Grisha, knew Grisha, possibly knew what Grisha was going to do, knew that Eren was going to get those abilities, and was kind of watching over Eren in a way because Grisha's no longer there. But then was also the Survey Corps commander before Erwin. What the fuck? That's if this is Keith, but it looks like the commander in No Regrets, and it also looks like Keith, who trained them, only younger and with hair. So this has to be Keith, especially because he makes the comment of, Grisha, your son is now a soldier. Along those lines, I can't remember the exact quote, so I'm kind of paraphrasing, but it was along the lines of, Grisha, your son is now a soldier. This is fucking Keith. So he had a conversation with Erwin about humanity and doing what Erwin was going to do about humanity.
イエーガー先生の記憶じゃなくて本当にエレンが
だと思うんだが
頭をどこ
I
かに
wonder if that had an influence on him in deciding to work with Grisha.
ヒストリアの手ばっか握りやがって。教官の頭突きでも食らえばいいんだよ。
それで思い出せんなら。
Heath! I completely forgot! It was him that broke down in series 1. I forgot that.
訓練兵団教官。
I didn't make that connection. Heath, what do you know, bro?
彼はエルヴィンの一つ前12代調査兵団の団長だよ。
シャーディス教官。
Did he know that one day Eren would come for information? A semi-automatic Titan extermination weapon constructed in part by Eren Yeager's hardening ability and the wall. It can safely fall and eliminate Titans compared to previous. Kind of really cool, but again, this kind of reaffirms to me that war is coming because it's a protection for the walls, but it might be used in an upcoming war.
座らんのか？
いいえ、私はこちらで結構です。
確かお前はこの教官室に呼び出されてはよく絞られて
She's traumatized. Has his father's eyes.
エレン、お前は母親とよく似ているな。
I would say he resembles his
その
dad,
瞳の
but
奥に宿す牙は父親そのものだ。人類の理にはなり得ない話でよければ聞いてくれ。傍観者に過ぎない私の思い出話を。20年前、ウォールマリア、志願しなく壁門の目前に彼はいた。おい、あんた、ここで何をしている？ どうやって壁を越えてきた？
あなたたちこそ壁の外で何を？まさか戦っているのか？
彼はなぜ壁の外にいるのか覚えていなかった。記憶を一切なくしていたのだ。グリシャ・イエーガーという名前以外。
He's not from within the walls, is he?
わざわざ壁の外をうろつくばかり。お前ら
Hannes!
調査兵団以外にいるわけねえのによ。とにかく被害者がいるわけでもねえし。
It's so
例の報告は
odd
なしだ。
seeing all these characters younger. We've only seen them as
それ
older.
でここからどこに帰るつもりだ？グリシャ・イエーガー。
名前以外にも覚えていることがある。私は医者だ。
Said you're not fighting, are you? It's almost as if he remembers that there's been a conflict of some sort.
調査兵団、あなたたちのことを。
Did he just say? You think you could teach me about this world, about the scouts, about all of you? All of you signifies to me that he's not from walls. He's from outside that has somehow found himself there. That he's aware of there being a war. There was a war because he says, "What are you all doing outside the wall? Don't tell me you're fighting." It's as if he knows that the wall was built to prevent any more fighting, and that's why he's terrified to see them outside of the wall, because to him that signifies that violence is coming, war is coming. But the question is, who wiped his memories? Is that why he's so hell-bent on learning as much information as he can, and that's what's in the basement is all his research?
貧富の差こそあれど、この壁の中は平和なんだな。少なくとも巨人に怯えて生きているわけではない。
It's Carla.
よかった。
飯と酒にありつければそれで満足な部類の人間らしい。世界がどれだけ広いかなんて考えたこともない。
あなたが壁の外へ出ていく理由はそれか？
バカみたいか？
そんなわけないだろう。あなたたちはこの壁の誰よりも賢く勇気がある。
They want to know the truth. They want to learn.
人類の誇りそのものだ。
また調査兵団の勧誘かい？
違うぞカルラ、私
Now
は。
we see how he meets
私なんぞ
Carla.
に務まるものではないでしょう。調査兵団はもっと特別な選ばれし者でないと。
選ばれし者。そんなことを言われたのは初めてだった。
Chosen in terms of they're willing to sacrifice themselves for the knowledge of humanity.
またしても大作。
Sorry, I keep going back slightly. Just little the language, like it's almost like it's in their blood that they need to expand and explore.
凡人どもの微量な脳みそでも理解できるほどの偉業を突きつければ、やがて皆が私を認める。
I wonder if Keith had a thing for Carla.
彼らも例の伝染病だ。なんとかならないか。
私の両親も。
大丈夫。みんな助かるよ。
イエーガー先生、家内が起き上がりました。
イエーガー先生、ありがとうございます。
This is medicine that I don't think anyone from within the walls could have ever created.
調査兵団団長に任命する。
おめでとう、イエーガー先生。
無理です。撤退しましょう、団長。
Music is so ominous.
突撃するしか能のない団長。また自分だけ生き延びたのかい。
でもエルヴィンの分隊はまだ死人を出してないんだって。
団長変えちまえばいいのにね。
キースさん。
Oh, baby Eren! Look at
カルラ、
him!
この子は。
エレン、男の子です。
Oh my god, he's so cute!
ああ、すまない。
このまま 死ぬまで続けるつもりですか？
Does care for Keith. Keith loved her, but stood by.
なぜ凡人は何もせず死ぬまで生きていられるかわかるか。まず想像力に乏しいからだ。その結果何も成し得ずただクソを垂らしただけの人生を恥じることもない。偉業を成し遂げること、いや理解することすら不可能だろう。そのわずかな切れ端すら手当たり次第男に愛想を振りまき酒をついで回るしか取り柄のないものだ。
Wow, Keith, just because you're bitter, she cares about you. That was just cruel. I get why it felt like his duty and integrity was questioned, but
特別な人間はいる。ただそれが自分ではなかったというだけのこと。たったそれだけのことにどうして気づけなかったのか。ウォールマリアが破られた。キース。
you sure?
思い出した。お前だったな。
Your
エレン
fault.
起きろエレン。母さんは一緒じゃないのか。
母さんが巨人に食われた。
エレン、母さんの仇を撃て。お前にはできる。
お前が撃てばいいだろう。カルラの仇を。なんせお前は特別だからな。私と違ってその子も違うんじゃないのか。選ばれし者じゃないかもしれないぞ。なあ、また人に呪いをかけるのか。
こ
But
の子はあ
Grisha
んた
took
と
the
違う。
ability.
私の子だ。どうか頼む。関わらないでくれ。
雷。
The music is what gets me emotional, I think, more than anything.
そして私は気絶していたお前を
And that's when
避
he
難
woke
所の
up.
寝床に戻した。
Remember, thought it was all a dream.
それが私の知るすべてだ。
あなたが退いた本当の理由が分かりました。死んでいった部下への贖罪ではなく、自分が特別じゃないとかどうとか言った、そんな幼稚な理由でここにいる。
よせ、ハンジ。
あんたの劣等感なんかどうでもいい。現実から逃げるな。公に心臓を捧げるとは、そういうことだろう。
Is Jaeger a
特別じゃ
bloodline?
なきゃいけないんですか？
Like one of the noble bloodlines?
私はそうは思いませんよ。少なくともこの子は偉大になんてならなくてもいい。人より優れていなくたって。だって
Oh,
見てくださいよ。こんなに可愛い。だからこの子はもう偉いんです。この世界に生まれてきてくれたんだから。
お前は父親が願ったように自らの命を燃やし壁の外で燃え尽きるのだろう。
it was him! He tried to thwart him.
私は何一つ変えることはできない。
I thought it was Jean all this
た
time.
だの傍観者だ。
Just. I mean, the tears are coming from just seeing Carla and how much she adored Eren. I can't help but like get emotional at it because she loved him with everything in her heart, and she never got to see him become the man he is. It's just really sad. And then I feel sorry for Keith, believing that he's not special and that he has nothing to contribute. And I understand people feeling resentful and bitter that people died under his command. It's not something somebody can they can only do their best to thwart it. And Keith implemented methods that Erwin brought into play in an attempt to prevent people dying. So it's not that he didn't care, unless, again, it is just that was the reasoning he gave for leaving and passing that role to Erwin, was that he was going to atone for the soul killed and that he couldn't live anymore. Because we know constantly that sort of the theme that comes up is doubt is what gets you killed. So if he's doubting his ability to live out, then it would be the best decision for him to step down. So maybe that's what that means. When they say Jaeger is special, and then he's saying that his son is special because of him, that has to be to do with his bloodline. His bloodline must have ability beyond what obviously he has stolen. There must be something there that is of value and of significance, because Keith even says, this is all your fault. But I don't know if it is Grisha's fault. The wall was breached in order for Annie, Reiner, and Bertolt to infiltrate, and I think the reason for infiltrating was, again, to get close to the interior, to who they thought was the blood of the king, which was Fritz. They obviously didn't know at the time that that wasn't the true blood of the king, so therefore he didn't have the abilities that they were searching for, which was the abilities of the founding titan. But we know that's why they infiltrated, and it was to locate the founding titan abilities. And then everything kind of changes when Eren inherits that from Grisha. I don't think Grisha is the reason they attacked, but I also think the walls being attacked was a catalyst for Grisha to then go and steal that ability from Grace and to pass it on to Eren. Again, I think Grisha, I've been saying this for a while, that Grisha has to be from outside of the walls, and we kind of now know that he is, but as to why or who wiped his memories, I'm not sure. Could he have been a pure titan that consumed somebody? Maybe he was like Emir, and he was a pure titan who consumed somebody and gained the ability back. And that's why he doesn't remember, because the injection can cause memory loss. Eren didn't remember what had happened, and that there seems to be that, like, when someone becomes a pure titan, there can be like a issue with remembering. So maybe Grisha was a pure titan, consumed somebody with that titan ability, and then became human again. Maybe he's older than he appears, because like Emir was in the body for 60 years but doesn't age. Maybe Grisha is older. Maybe Grisha was from the time before the walls were built. And therefore, when he became a pure titan and transformed back, he was confused as to why they were leaving the wall, because he thought that meant the war was ongoing. Maybe he was alive during the war before the walls were built, and then was around for when the walls were built, but was transformed around that time and left to wander, and then was very like confused. Because his medicinal abilities are like out of this world, in terms of that they are not something that people within the walls could have just created on a whim. That signifies to me that he has knowledge that is way older than the time that they're in, that he's older than he appears, that like Emir, possibly a pure titan, ate somebody, was able to transform back, but there's been a big glimpse of time in that, like he's been wandering for a while. But there has to be something special about their bloodline. Too many sort of hints where he's saying Eren is my son, so therefore he is special. So there's something in the Jaeger blood that makes them powerful, that maybe makes them able to hone this ability in a way that somebody else might not be able to. Could they be linked to Emir far back? Could the Jaegers be a family branch from Emir? So you have the royal branch, but maybe there's a separate branch which includes the Jaegers. So they have ties, but they're not the blood of the king, so therefore the first king cannot bind them by the will of his blood, but they're linked to Emir, which makes them special, because I believe that Emir is the founding titan, because she is spoken with such high reverence and referred to as a goddess. So it seems that is the case. I've just realized this video is like an hour and 23 minutes already. Jeez, this is gonna be a pain to edit. I felt so sorry for Keith and that he doesn't believe special and that he was a bystander and basically saying all this stuff happened around me, so therefore I've been nothing better than somebody has just watched everything place. Keith has done what he could do, but stood by when could have told Carla his affections for her. The bystander in his own romantic life too, who was a bystander to people dying. He was a bystander to Jaeger doing stuff that he couldn't possibly understand. Like, he just believes himself to be just there to witness, but not anyone with significance. He can't change anything. He couldn't help the people with the plague. He couldn't protect people from dying from the Titans. He couldn't prevent the walls from being kicked in. He couldn't prevent Eren from becoming a soldier. He couldn't prevent Carla from having children with Jaeger. I understand what he means by being a bystander. He just feels he has no significance beyond watching what other people achieve in life and that he is just a witness. It was nice to see Historia and that she's bringing a fairer society to the walls and making sure that people are given the aid and help that they deserve, and that just because you're born under the ground doesn't mean that you're not worthy of respect and admiration, that everyone deserves the chance to thrive and have the same benefits as somebody else regardless of money. And it's so funny that the capitalistic rant I went on about the relation to the walls ended up being significant in this episode. So I was kind of glad to see that. I do think Grisha's older than what we think he is, and that there's something in the Jaeger bloodline that makes him special. But I think this bloodline could be linked to Emir and the founding Titan. I think Grisha possibly began to regain his somehow, or at least knew enough to know where to begin to research, because this whole basement thing needs to come up again, because hot damn, it's it's been a minute. I need to know what's in this basement, and I think it's research. I think Grisha has figured out the truth of why the memories were wiped, what went on before, possibly regained his memories, what went on before if he is older than he appears, and that war is coming, that they need the founding Titan abilities protect those within the wall, because humanity, if forced into another conflict, will be pushed to the brink, because violence begets violence. It's a cycle. And if those outside the walls start a fight with those within the walls, that is humanity in general. A war would push humanity to the brink because it is conflict, it is infighting, it is violence between two races of people who fundamentally are at odds with one another, but one doesn't remember and the other does. Which is just strictly unfair to start a war with a group of people that don't understand why you want to start a war with them. But that's a story for another time, I guess, because I don't know why there was a war, or even if there was a war, I'm just 100% sure there was one. And that's solely because there's just too many indications with we were hated from birth, we were mistreated, and just the links to the fact that she believes that those within the walls despise and hate her. And I think that's because she's from a different race of people that were possibly colonized or abused or mistreated by the first king and his people, but his people don't remember it because their minds have been wiped, and the generations growing up within the walls don't know any different because they've not been taught that history has been rewritten. Whereas her people would know the truth because their memories wouldn't be wiped. They would know history. If they are passing history down the generations, their history could also be slightly twisted to make themselves look innocent, and maybe they weren't strictly innocent. Maybe their history as well is used to manipulate the younger generation into hating those within the walls, which is what we've seen with Reiner's internal conflict, where he can't quite fathom hating the people he's been raised to hate because it doesn't align with what he's been taught about them. When he actually met them and interacted and engaged with them, it doesn't align with the idea he's been force fed all his life. So it's caused that internal shift, that internal conflict, which again is making me think that they're from a race of people that have passed down the history of a conflict. And that is force fed to the younger generation. That hatred is force fed. And then you have those within the walls that don't know a conflict even happened and a war is coming. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment below to help boost this video into the algorithm. And until next episode, bye!